Okay, folks, very good evening and glad we could connect with all of you virtually, of course, and hopefully soon physically as well. The idea of taking you through this orientation of sorts is to give you an overview of what you're signing into, as honest and as candid as possible, both physically, mentally, the preparation required, and what the challenge is all about. So, both Devashish and Pooja have already gone through this once before. And we thought it would be great to be able to share this with you also so that you know how to prepare for the upcoming expedition that's there. Just to give you a perspective, Kilimanjaro is the highest mountain of Africa. It is part of the Seven Summits expedition. And when you say Seven Summits, basically it represents one of the seven highest points, one on each of the continents. So in Asia, you have Mount Everest. On Africa, you have Mount Kilimanjaro. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a small little presentation. And Ayush, I think I have the presentation. So let me show my screen.
Works.
Yeah, hang on. Let's see.
Might have seen it in the first time and we kind of remember we had school. Yeah. I don't remember.
Okay, great. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, Mount Kilimanjaro, it is one of the seven summits, as I mentioned to you earlier. For those of people aspiring to climb the seven summits, they are Mount Everest in Asia, of course, Aconcagua, the highest mountain of the Andes mountain range in South America. In North America, it's Denali, located in the Denali National Park in Alaska. You have Kilimanjaro in Africa. Mount Elbrus, which is the highest mountain of Europe, part of the Caucasus Mountain range, but politically falls in Russia. And the next mountain, of course, is Mount Vincent, which is the highest point of Antarctica, and the next is Mount Kosciuszko. This is the highest point of Australia. This is the easiest of the seven summits. There's a cable car that takes you half the way, and it's more of a day hike rather than actual climbing expedition per se. Usually, Mount Kilimanjaro becomes the popular start point of the seven summits, more because of the ability for you getting a chance to explore this fantastic adventure, being a challenge as well, and the fact that you end up reaching the summit of the highest mountain of Africa. Most people kind of mistakenly presume that Kilimanjaro is in South Africa, but actually Mount Kilimanjaro is located in Tanzania. The the best times of the year to climb Kilimanjaro are usually January, February, and then subsequently July, August, September, October. You can climb Kilimanjaro throughout the year, but March, April, May is a wet season, and so is November as well. So we are tentatively looking at doing this at the end of July, first week of August. So from that perspective, historically speaking, we should get really good weather. Now, getting a perspective of which part of the world you're coming from, either if you're coming from UK, then the idea is to land in the Kilimanjaro International Airport, which is a huge new airport that's been constructed very close to Kilimanjaro, the biggest city being Arusha, which becomes a start point of our adventure. And of course, the alternative is if somebody's coming from India, then you have an opportunity to fly from Bombay. Qatar, Emirates, Etihad, all these airlines fly to Kilimanjaro International Airport. But you also have some of the African carriers as well, which is essentially your Kenyan Airways, Air Tanzania, and Ethiopian Airways as well. So right now on your screen, what you're looking at is a top view of Kilimanjaro. It may look confusing, but I'll talk you through it. Basically, Kilimanjaro is a standalone volcano, and because of this, the park authorities have created this fantastic opportunity to approach it from different perspectives. So the map that you're looking at is your classic north-south image, and each one of these different colored routes represent one of the trails that we can look at. And we briefly discussed whether you want to take the Coca-Cola route or the whiskey route, and I'll talk you through the differences. So if you actually look at the map right now, the white circle in the center, that's the summit. That's the core of the crater, and it's called Kibo, and that's the highest point of the mountain. And each one of the colors represent a different route map to reach the top. So the Coca-Cola route, which is popular because it's the shortest distance that you cover, is actually this purple route that you can see over here. So it gives you a straight approach to go up and come back down. But because of that, it becomes very fast, very steep, and the probability of success is very low. The route that we popularly see the highest percentage of success is actually the orange route. So it's called the Machame route. And if you actually see, you approach it from the bottom, but you're more towards the west of the mountain. And then you end up actually walking around the mountain at a similar elevation. And I'll take you through the elevation grades before you approach the summit of Uhuru and then come back down. The great thing about Kilimanjaro is that the route going up the mountain is separate from the route coming down from the mountain. So you don't have oncoming traffic on this particular trail. Whereas in most of the hikes and trails, whether it's, in US, the national parks, or whether it's the Himalayas, invariably the route going up and coming back down is the same. So you have to be careful of oncoming traffic, whether it's human traffic or yak traffic. In Kilimanjaro, you don't have to worry about that. In fact, there are no animals, so there are no mules or yaks that are used. The porters are the ones who carry all the equipment and the luggage. And I'll talk you through how big the climbing team can be on Kilimanjaro. Moving on, we have uh, a small little route map to give you a perspective of what it takes to climb Kilimanjaro. So it'll give you a sense of the kind of topography that you're going to be traveling through. So presuming you've already landed in Kilimanjaro International Airport and the first day you rest in Arusha, the next day we move to Machame Gate. And as you can see from the visual in front of you, you're going to be walking through this really dense green vegetation which skirts the entire mountain. And Machame Camp is just above the tree line. By day two, you go up to the Shira Plateau, which is at about 3,900 meters. And this is where the dry landscape starts. We climb up to Lava Tower and come all the way down to Barranco campsite. Now, the great thing about this route is all these three camps, the Shira camp, the Barranco campsite, and the Karanga campsite, are all at the same elevation. So it allows you to acclimatize very well before you start moving higher up to Barafo, which is also the high camp. And then from Barafo, we start at 11:30 in the night and steadily start making our way all the way to the top of the mountain. Stella Point becomes the first point on the crater. And from Stella Point, we circumvent the crater and reach Uhuru Peak, which is the highest point on this mountain. That very same day, we come all the way back down to Barafu camp. We pack up our things, move down to Millennium so that you're at the tree line and you can sleep and rest. And within the next day, you're already out of the campsite. So the good thing about Kilimanjaro is that the exit out of the camp, once you're done with the summit and the motivation is done, it becomes a very fast exit out of the mountain as opposed to most other treks where usually the journey out is almost as long as the journey in. Um, I personally love Kilimanjaro because it gives you a really diverse flora and fauna of vegetation that you go through on a regular basis. So, just to give you a perspective, the very first day of the Machame camp, you literally are walking through a dense African rainforest. And as the name suggests, it will be warm, it will be humid, and probability of rainfall is very high because this mountain creates its own weather patterns because of the glacier as well. The crazy thing is that the second day itself, you reach the Shira Plateau, and this area is completely devoid of vegetation. So imagine day one, you're already walking in a rainforest, seeing monkeys swing from tree to tree. As I jokingly referred to it, short of Tarzan and Jane swinging in the trees, you see it all. And then day two, you're on the Shira Plateau with possibly just one tree in your visibility. By day three, you're walking through the Bronco Canyon, which is literally something from a Wild Wild West Clint Eastwood movie, with these very old prehistoric vegetation that you see all over the place, much higher than an individual. And it really gives you a perspective that you're in a Wild Wild West movie. It has some very distinct features. The Bronco Wall becomes one of the most looked forward to parts of this entire trail because it's a little bit of scrambling. It's also jokingly referred to as a breakfast wall because you start it at as soon as you finish breakfast, and after 2 hours, when you reach the top of this wall, you feel like as if you already digested and burned through that entire breakfast. But this is just one of the features that you'll experience on the Machame route. The great thing is that throughout this entire route from day three onwards, you're literally looking at the dome of Kilimanjaro. So the views on the Machame route are absolutely fabulous. And unlike walking in any other mountain, whether it's the Himalayas, whether it's the Andes or the the Rocky Colorado, um, you don't have a mountain range you're looking at. So when you turn in the opposite direction, you're actually looking down on the entire continent of Africa. And in this particular view, you see the dome of Kilimanjaro standing above you. So these are some of the visuals on day three while walking to some of the camps. And as you can see, by day four, you're already walking towards the snow. The actual challenge of this climb is twofold. One is, of course, acclimatizing, which is the biggest challenge, and most people underestimate Kilimanjaro because the distances are not very much. From start point to finish point, you're doing 52 kilometers in 7 days, whereas the height gain is tremendous. You're literally going from 1600 meters, which approximately is, I would say, about yeah, 5,500 feet. And you're going all the way to the summit, which is 20,000 feet. So that's a huge jump in a period of 3 to 4 days. This is important to keep in mind because in order to overcome this particular challenge of acclimatizing to the environment and adapt to the rapid changing environment, it is important to treat it not as a walk in a park or a holiday, but to treat it with enough respect as far as the physical preparation is concerned. Um, I would say that between now and the time that you look at doing Kilimanjaro, the next 5 months, you need to put in some really serious hard work because we're expecting you to be in the best physical fitness of your entire life. And that's what Kilimanjaro would do. It's going to challenge you because the real challenge is the night. When you reach Barafo campsite, the high camp, we start for the summit at about 11:30 in the night and climb through the entire night in order to reach the summit in the early hours of the morning. This is done for two reasons. One is that the idea is that we want to make sure you are not exposed to high elevation for too long. Two is that the weather is the best in the early hours of the morning. By midday or the afternoon, sometimes the clouds come in and it can turn really bad. Three, we normally don't climb during the day because when the sun is beating down on you, it can be very dehydrating and exhausting. And the last thing you want to do is reach the summit in the evening and have to descend during the night, which can be dangerous and also a safety risk. For Kilimanjaro, this is referred to as a full-fledged trekking expedition. And when we say expedition, basically that means we are completely self-sufficient. So, to give you a perspective, this is what a typical campsite looks like. We have dome-shaped tents. These are great for thermal regulation. They make sure that the tents are warm and trap the body heat as much as possible because there's less area for circulation to take place and outside wind to come into the tent. It also gives you a perspective of how efficient we have to be. So the dining tent is a little bit more comfortable and luxurious. As you can see, we have plates and spoons and tables and chairs. And the idea is that we want to make sure that the team is well fed throughout because, as Napoleon said, an army marches on its stomach. And we want to make sure that you guys are not just fit on day one and day two, but also on the way to the summit and back down again. Also, the dining tent is the place where the team ends up spending the most amount of time. So we try making sure it's very, very comfortable. A sleeping tent typically is cozy. We have mattresses, pillows, and depending upon whether one person is in a tent or two people are in a tent, the idea is that you want to try being as minimalistic as possible and you have the things that you just need as opposed to traveling for a holiday where you're carrying a suitcase with you. Just to give you a perspective, a typical expedition, for example, if we have five climbers, we will have porters not only carrying your entire camping gear, they will be carrying your personal luggage, they will be carrying the tents, the dining tent, the kitchen tent, the ration, the food, the utensils, the gas. So supporting a team of about five climbers, usually you will have a staff of approximately, I would say about 30 to 35 porters and guides put together. Just to give you a sense, sorry, there's somebody at the door, but just to give you a sense, because the temperature variation is so diverse from day one to day four, the idea of surviving Kilimanjaro is pretty much focusing on layers of clothing. So as you keep going higher up the mountain, we add more and more layers, a base layer, a mid layer, and an outer layer. These are a combination of synthetic and, of course, down jackets and Gore-Tex jackets as well. The same is used for the bottom layers as well. On day one, as I mentioned, you're walking through a rainforest. So chances are that you're thinking, hey, I've carried way too many clothes. I wish I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. But every day the temperatures are going to drop by a good 5 to 6 degrees. So by the time you reach the summit, if you saw snow, then chances are it's going to be sub-zero temperatures, and that's what we have to be mentally prepared for on this particular expedition. So it's important to be prepared for all weather, whether it's rain, whether it's snow, and also whether it's bright sunshine as well. Um, the things that you do need to make sure you have is a good down jacket, sleeping bag. If you have your own sleeping bag, great. If not, then we will organize a great sleeping bag for you. Trekking boots are a must. Now, trekking boots are something that you should not buy just before the trek. It should be something that you're wearing probably 2 to 3 months before, preferably high ankle, good grip, and at least half a size, if not one size, bigger than your normal shoes because you're going to be wearing thicker socks, or you're also going to have your feet swelling while you're climbing because it does happen. So, the last thing you want is the boots getting too tight for your feet and your toes smashing against the inside of your boot. A good bag is important to have with you. This should be, well, shouldn't be too big. It should be well supported on your shoulders with waist straps, which gives you a nice ergonomic design to balance the weight across your shoulders. Because remember, the porters will take your luggage and they will take off. So you will only see them at the beginning of the day at the campsite and at the end of the day. Because by the time we reach the next campsite, the porters have already reached and they've set up the campsite so that you don't have to wait. Anything that you need during the day of the trek, you need to carry with yourself. So, a snack box, some trail mix, an extra jacket, water, and therefore all those things need to fit into your day bag as we refer them to. And it needs to be comfortable on your back. It should not weigh you down. Once or twice, we've had a couple of people try doubling a laptop bag, and by day two, day three, their shoulders have definitely given way. So, in a nutshell, that's what the Kilimanjaro expedition is about. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. It'll be my pleasure to just open this up for some Q&A as well.
Thanks, Samir. Tons of questions. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
where to
yeah.
start. So let me start with a few requests and then maybe some questions. So if you could put this presentation on the WhatsApp, at least I
Yes.
can refer it back to it.
Yeah.
That's one. Secondly, on the list of items you gave, will it be possible for you to send links as to the right brands or things like that, so that I know, where am I going for that kind of shoe? Because I don't want to end up in a shoe shop and no one. I mean, if you can give us few brands that work and things like that.
Of course.
Okay, so that would be great. And do we also need, like as you said? So we come to Arusha, and we have booked our flights along with Pooja and Devashish. So we come with our bags, right, which will have other things because we may go somewhere after that. So are those suitcases left in the hotel? So we just is that what happens?
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
okay,
So what's going to happen is, let's say you land in Arusha, we take you to the hotel. Chances are that you'll be bringing your suitcase or a bag to leave in the
yeah,
cloakroom of the hotel. So we will make arrangements and provisions for your travel luggage to stay in Arusha and for your continued trip as well. And to the mountain, we only be taking the clothes or the apparels that are specifically required for the mountain. And as far as the gear is required that you need for the trek, so Ayush is with me on this call as well, and he's on the group. So both Ayush and I will be helping you
yeah,
between now and the time that we see you on the mountain. We're going to be taking you through every level of
yeah,
preparation.
yeah,
So
yeah,
first, physically, each one of you, we're going to reach out to you individually. We have a small little form that we need you guys to fill in, and we will customize a training plan specific to your needs as well. And that's something that we're going to take you through. The gear as well, we're going to talk you through exactly what kind of gear you need to have, because for us, we don't work like a tour agency or a travel agent. For
mm,
us, you are our responsibility on the mountain. So if you're not prepared on the mountain, then it becomes a problem not just for you, but a problem for us as well. And we want to try
yeah,
avoiding that. So by the
yeah,
time you reach Kilimanjaro or Arusha, we want to make sure that every level of preparation that we can do before, physical, gear wise, mental, take you through more visuals of what you're going to get into,
yeah.
put you through very strenuous training plans so that you aren't caught unaware when you're on the mountain.
Okay, thank you. And I guess that time, from a timing perspective, and this is a small request, I guess given December, Jan are generally sale period, if you can have the list, I can buy something now rather than
Yes.
having to wait
Yeah.
till then. All right. I'll stop here.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that we will send within this week itself. We'll share that with you.
Thanks.
So, May, regarding the temperature, you said it goes to sub-zero. Does it go to like those minus 20s we saw at EBC, or is it better than that?
No, so it may not at that time of the year, July, August, it may not be as cold as that. The only thing is that you have to understand that Kilimanjaro is a standalone mountain. So there's no buffer against the wind. So we're hoping that there won't be any wind around that time. But if there is wind, then there's nothing that we can do about that. The wind chill factor can be quite a bit. So there are times when the weather's great and you don't have to worry about the wind. But if the wind is blowing, it feels like minus 15, minus 20. But having said that, we will, of course, be monitoring the situation and we'll build in a buffer day also. And if we feel that one particular day is not working too well, then we can work around that. But the good thing is that the time of the year that you're looking at doing it in, which is end July, August, that actually is the warmest, best time of the year to climb Kilimanjaro. So historically, when I've been on the mountain and I've been climbing Kilimanjaro pretty much since 2014, the weather has been a little bit more fickle in end Jan, beginning February. But July, August, September is actually the best time to look at climbing the mountain.
Okay.
I'll go with some questions. Um,
Please.
uh, so firstly, to Vivek's point, you had that slide with all those layers.
Yes.
So sooner rather than later, it will be really good to okay, for each layer, this is the brand I would recommend, so that in this at least we can start collecting all the stuff that is needed. So that
Yeah.
would be good, and December Jan is a good time to buy all this equipment.
And also the accessories, not only the socks and the
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, all the brands that you'd recommend, and we try to fit the best we can into that.
Perfect.
That's one. Secondly, you mentioned everybody. I think so. You'll do one-on-one sessions with each of us to figure out the training plan, right? So I
Yes,
guess
because I think, different people have different medical history, training preference. Some people like stairs, some people like cycling, some people hate to jog. So it'll be easiest to give, cut, copy, paste standard template to everybody, but it won't serve the purpose, right? So the
yeah,
idea is that we want to play to your strengths. Everything said and done, even though we will try creating a customized plan, the litmus test is what we refer to as a staircase workout. So the target should be that you should be comfortable doing 100 floors in a day before Kilimanjaro. I know it sounds like a large number, but I'm not saying you need to do it today. I'm not saying you need to do it next week or next month, but you need to work your way to be comfortable doing an equivalent of 100 floors in a day, because walking upstairs is a great exercise because it kind of simulates the exact kind of training that you're going to be doing on the mountain. You're going to be activating the big muscles in your legs, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and as some people say, hey, why don't you go for a run? Or I like to cycle, or I like to swim. Those are great cardio exercises, but the litmus test would be giving you a target of 100 steps of floors or 100 floors in a particular day.
yeah. So I think I'm presuming all of us would love to get to that sooner rather than later,
Yes.
that we
Yeah.
can make our individual plans.
Yes.
Personally speaking, but others, along with the endurance and the stair climbing, I guess I would love to maybe understand in these one-to-one sessions that you'll do with each one of us, how do we best acclimatize, right? Because as you said, the that's the biggest challenge, right?
Yeah,
More than
absolutely.
anything else.
Yeah. So again, there's no exact science to it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work closer towards your increasing your fitness levels, and what we're going to do is we're going to share with you a Google form and get you to fill it in with your individual medical history, your various parameters as well, and then we will work with you and create a training plan. And then I will personally speak to each one of you and give you certain tricks that we use to prepare for high altitude training, especially when we are going to bigger mountains like Everest and Ahmedabad.
Yeah. And then I have one more question now, many more later. Um, is really just on the, so you've done this many times, right? Taken people
Yeah.
up the mountain.
Yeah.
Uh, what proportion of people don't finish?
Oh,
And then
no,
you have
that's
to
a
bring
good
them down.
question. No, that's a very good question. So, statistically, Kilimanjaro has about a 75 to 78% success rate, which is not very high. But fortunately, we have a much higher percentage. We have about a 98%. And this is including school kids that we've taken up to Kilimanjaro as well. The instances where
That's
we've
easy though. I'm presuming school
yeah.
kids are much better.
Well, you'd think so, but after 2 hours of walking, you get to hear, are we there yet? How much further? I'm bored. Tell me a story. So,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Kids are very physically fit, but the challenge with them is they don't have the mental endurance to
sure.
cover such long distances. And so it becomes a lot more effort for us because we have to keep them entertained with stories.
Yeah.
Uh, and I usually regret saying that because people are like, hey, listen, what are the stories you tell at school kids? We also want to hear it. But having said that, uh, the instances where we've not had people who've reached the summit are a combination of things. One, that either they felt the cold, that's happened on a few occasions. On a few occasions, somebody's not really told us there's a pre-existing medical condition and suddenly have surprised us later on. So to that effect, it's also now mandatory to do get a medical sign off from a doctor. Um, I know that becomes a challenge in UK because it's not so easy as going to a doctor as it is in India and getting a medical sign off done. So we can discuss and figure out how do we work around that. But usually those are the two major instances when people have not been able to reach the summit. Somebody has a pre-existing cough or cold that they've not really told us about, and as you go towards high elevation, it gets exacerbated. Somebody's had a slip disc on one particular instance, and have not really told us about that, and then sleeping in the tents, it's been uncomfortable, and therefore they've not been able to sleep through the tent, and the next day they've been too tired, and there's a cumulative fatigue that builds up. So those are some of the instances when we've not really had people who've reached the summit.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's not much. You didn't quote altitude sickness there.
No, because we have a very rigorous training preparation plan. We are very cognizant of the fact that that's going to be a very key factor. And also on the mountain, we will try ensuring that you do go slow. So even though the distances are not very much, on treks like the Everest Base Camp, where your target is to try reaching the next destination by lunch, over here we organize a packed lunch, and along the way we'll have a picnic lunch as well. And the route that we choose, the Machame route, um, we've even extended that by an extra day. So that's traditionally a 6-day, 5-night route, but we do it as a 7-day, 6-night route. And the route specifically helps as far as acclimatization is concerned.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And Samir, sorry, last,
Please.
you and Ayush will be going for the going with us.
No,
Or
both of us will not. No, both of us will not be there. I hope Ayush can also come, and I'm sure he also hopes he could join us as well. But as of right now, either me or Soraj, one of us, will be leading your team.
okay.
And
And
also,
it,
sorry,
sorry,
go
Pooja.
ahead.
No, Pooja, you go ahead.
No, I had some logistical questions related to the hotel that's booked in Arusha and also the kind of things that can be provided. I know there are different types of tents and different types of toilets and all of those.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point we can go through them and also figure out what logistically would be best for
Yeah,
this group.
those we will cover on the group, and that's why the group is there as
Yeah.
well. We'll share with you a video of the Western style toilets that we organize on the expedition. These are proper flushable toilets as well. It's not 1:1 ratio because the park authorities are very strict about making sure that the ecology of the place is protected. But as many as they will allow, we will organize that. We've given you two hotel options also in Arusha. I'll re-specify that as well. So those details will definitely go through on the WhatsApp group.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of medical sign off, because just trying to keep it easy, um, I mean, all of us travel to India. How many months? What is the validity of it? So if I get it in March, for example, will it be okay?
Yes, that's absolutely fine, honestly, because the idea is just that before the expedition, within the last 6 months, you've got on a medical checkup. That's what we really need, because in case there's a problem, then the first question is, has the person gone through a medical and have they got a sign off from a doctor?
Um, I'm look forward to that. So now I was saying that I'm definitely in India in end February, March. So I'd rather get it out of the way there simply because it's easier to organize to get it done in a day.
If you're actually coming to India and you can plan it, then it's good to even get your yellow fever inoculation in India because it's not so expensive. If you've already got your yellow fever inoculation, that's great. But I do know that it's quite expensive abroad. In India, it's issued by a certain government outlets, and
And
Bombay, for example, the Airport Authority of India issues it. So it's a good
okay.
place to get your yellow fever inoculation as well.
No, yeah, that's good. It's just the convenience factor more than anything. It just get it all done.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sachin, did you have questions?
Yeah, Samir, what is the distance one covers generally on a daily basis?
So approximately it's about 7 to 8 kilometers, averaging to about 7 to 8 kilometers. But more than the distance, it's actually the height gain, and that's the biggest
Yep.
challenge about Kilimanjaro. So you're gaining an average of about, I would say, about 600 to 700 meters every day. And keeping that in mind, that's the real challenge. So that's why walking
Yeah, sure.
upstairs makes a
Yeah.
difference.
So on that point itself, where you get acclimatized, and so what are the preparations? And you guys will, I'm sure, guide us in terms of how to get acclimatized as you go higher, right? I mean, what do we do to kind of get acclimatized to that, uh, to those heights whilst
Yeah, I
being.
mean, see, I'll be honest with you. There's no exact science. If I tell you the cardinal rules, it sounds a little too basic to believe. But the idea is to go slowly and steadily. Try making sure that you're not racing. The moment you hear your heart beating too fast and you're finding yourself catching your breath, you stop and take a couple of deep breaths, drinking a lot of water, an average of about, I would say, about 3 to 4 liters of water per day is something that you do need to work on doing. And it's a good thing to get that practice going on now. On an average, a person probably drinks about a liter, maybe two if you're lucky. The reason why you drink a lot more water is that it kind of uh, pushes the circulatory system. Your kidneys are working better. You're going to the loo more often, and also the blood is getting oxygenated through your system a lot faster. Medication helps. So Dimox or acetazolamide, it's a form of a diuretic which doctors prescribe to individuals, especially who are going to high elevation. So usually a prophylactic dose of about 125 mg and a curative dose of 250 mg. Now this also depends upon whether somebody has BP or not, because BP medications also are blood thinners in a way. So that's why it's good to check in with your doctor whether you do need to take Dimox. Most doctors do recommend Dimox as a prophylactic dose before going to high elevation, and that makes a huge difference. During your preparation, things like pranayam, or if you're more comfortable with the Western school of thought, Wim Hof, the Norwegian uh, yoga and health guru who talks about this breathing exercise. Basically, any kind of breathing exercise makes a huge difference. For people who love doing yoga, we found that they acclimatize a lot easier to the mountains because they're anyway used to breathing exercises. And of course, if you're a swimmer and you love swimming, that kind of a cardiovascular exercise does brilliantly well. The idea is to be able to expand the lungs and be conscious about taking deeper breaths, especially as you're going higher up the mountain.
Is
Um,
this is there something? Sorry, is there something you can do to? I know it's a little tough to get acclimatized to the higher kind of. I mean, is there? I don't know how it'll be possible, but is there some way? Because I feel that out of the two concerns, one is getting acclimatized to the higher heights, right? In terms of the breathing, so one knows what to perhaps do
Right.
apart from the medication part of it, and the breathing exercise, because you'll never know, right? You may do yoga, but are you doing your breathing properly? But so that you can get used to it, is there some way we can, or is there some where you can go into a room where that it is akin to being at a 4,000 meter height, or you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, of course. So there are two. So specific to your question, there are two ways of doing it. There's one way which we do when we're going to much higher elevation as part of our training. So you have something called a high altitude training mask, and I can share the
Okay.
link on the group. It's basically a
Sure.
mask that restricts the amount of air that goes into your system, and you use it with doing high intensity interval training, or you do it on a use it on a treadmill at very steep elevation. A lot of the UFC athletes, the MMA fighters, they use it because they're trying to train their bodies to work in anaerobic conditions, and that's something that you can do. Nowadays, you have gyms as well, which are set up in hyperbaric chambers. So I'm not too sure about the UK. I can do a little research, of course. But in India, in Mumbai and even in Pune as well, there are fitness centers and research centers that have a treadmill which they simulate the conditions of high elevation by
Correct. That's what I was
creating
about. Yeah,
mix
yeah.
of nitrogen and oxygen
Because
environment.
that'd be
So
useful, not at the start, but perhaps
yeah,
after 2 or 3 months of our training, as to what you kind
sure,
of expect and
absolutely.
what level we are, right? Because we may
Yeah,
well be underprepared, or not expecting it, and we at least we know what to expect, and it doesn't catch us napping, at least here, so we know what to.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that was great. If you can share that with us in terms of, and look, I also visit Bombay quite frequently. So if it is available, and I'm sure it'll be available in London, but otherwise, I'm happy to
absolutely.
kind of check it out in Mumbai. So that was one question, and my second question was on this 100 kind of stories. Right now, and I understand that that's our target, and that can't that may be over 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. So you start with 10,
Yes.
15. But so what you're saying is, so let's assume in month two, I'm targeting 25. So you just do 25 at a go. I mean, you can take breaks, but because you need to have a 25-story building, right? I mean, to keep going up on a constant basis, right?
Not Yeah, not necessary. I mean, it's difficult to do that unless unless you're in Mumbai or probably Singapore. So if you have like a five-floor building or a six-floor
Yeah.
building, I know it sounds repetitive, but the idea is to climb up those five floors and take the elevator down because it gives
Okay.
you a little bit of a pause. Then you
And
do
then
it again. Like for
yeah,
example, I
that's
say,
yeah, that was the only way I thought it could be achieved. Otherwise,
yeah,
unless you are living somewhere where you have 40, 50
You can
stories.
go
yeah.
to Burj Khalifa.
Yeah,
Start
99
working up.
in one go.
Okay, no. I just okay, fine. I just had these two
Yeah.
kind of concerns in terms of
Yeah, so
how to be prepared.
the idea is to be cognizant of it. Like just to give you a perspective, the how today people have pedometers that check whether they've done 10,000 steps in a day or 15,000 steps. Um, the idea is to slowly gravitate to a stage where you're consciously taking steps rather than an elevator or escalator. So whether it's at work, I travel a lot, so on the airport, I always avoid the escalator. Most people get as um, as strange, but trying to build it into your daily routine because that's how you manage your
Sure.
step count as well, or your stair count in this particular instance. So that's the idea, and you're not supposed to do it at a stretch. There's no time saying that I want you to do 10 floors, and in 15 minutes. The idea is to be able to identify what your pace is. So the moment you start walking up the stairs, chances are that the first time you will feel your heart beating out of your chest. You will feel breathless. But the idea is to try finding your own rhythm that allows you to climb comfortably without it being a strain on you. And again, the idea is not to come down the stairs because I don't want you to unnecessarily put a strain on your knees. Take the elevator and come back down. And because you're doing this repetitively.
Yeah, but at some point in time, you'll need to also practice coming down, right? Because you will be coming down, right? I mean,
Yes, absolutely. But the idea is you don't need to do 100 floors going up
sure,
and
sure,
100
sure. No,
floors
I
coming
get
down.
that, but but at some point we will have to. And lastly, the other question I had was, whilst how what is the experience of sleeping in the tent? What I meant was because the weather, or you again you're in altitude, and maybe one is tired, so the it's not so much of a concern because you may fall asleep because you're exhausted during the day. But which is a good thing to do. But is that also something which we need to kind of, because that we may ignore that in terms of
Yes, no, I think that's a very good question. That's an excellent question because most people don't take that into consideration. And they find that suddenly on the first night that they've ever slept on a mountain or slept in a tent, it is on Kilimanjaro, and you're not used to the sleeping bag because it kind of binds you in and keeps you warm. Or the tent is smaller space that you're normally used to, so
or
there's a
the
sense
air
of
because of the
claustrophobia.
altitude, or the air, the
Yeah.
breathing. Yeah.
So So honestly, I would suggest that if you do get an opportunity, it's best to sleep in a tent at least a couple of times before you experiment for the very first
Devashish
time
is
on
used to
Kilimanjaro.
that. Devashish at times has to sleep in a tent.
Yeah, garden. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it is a
Samir,
good question, and I would definitely say that if an opportunity presents itself, it's best to actually sleep in a tent a couple of times before having that very first experience on Kilimanjaro.
No, no, I'm not worried about sleeping in the tent on a serious note because one would be exhausted. My concern was more in terms of also the kind of the or one would have got used to the air because or the altitude because you have climbed it, so it doesn't affect while
Yeah,
sleeping. Is my was my
yeah, so
concern also.
the idea is that one, unlike most of the places where either you take a cable car and go straight to a particular height, or we're slowly trekking up or climbing
You'll
up.
get used to its
The first
climbs.
night, yeah, so the first night you are going to be sleeping at the tree line, so there will be an oxygen-rich environment. Usually by day two, there is some amount of sleeplessness, but day three and day four, we're sleeping at the same elevation. And because we're sleeping at the same elevation, chances are that your body adapts. And that's the great thing about the human body. If you give it the opportunity to, it has this capability of adapting.
Sure.
But it is a serious consideration because if you don't sleep properly through the night,
Yeah,
it
that's my concern. Yeah.
becomes the challenge. It becomes a challenge the next day.
No, I
uh,
understand.
Samir, a quick one. I know some people haven't done it, but I just wanted to check because some have said that EBC is harder than Kili or Kili is harder than EBC. I mean, you've done both. Can you give me a reference point as to understanding how
You
much
know,
Well, apart from you,
um,
no one, none of the others
But
have
that's
done
what I said.
any.
There's not a
Yeah.
much reference, but I wanted to check because it kind of gives me a mental
yeah.
picture of what I should be looking
So,
forward to.
there are pros and cons on both sides. Everest Base Camp, the average distance you're doing on a daily basis is a lot more. By the time you finish the entire Everest Base Camp trek, or even do it one way, from Lukla all the way to the glacier, you've covered about 65 kilometers at high elevation, whereas Kilimanjaro from start to finish is about 52 kilometers. So the distances are a lot less. However, the terrain is a lot more rugged, especially because you're going from one environment to the next environment. And so on Everest Base Camp, the trail is connecting one village to another, whereas over here, you're literally walking through a national park. So, it's not as defined per se, and it's much steeper. So the steepness on Kilimanjaro definitely adds a layer of difficulty against Everest Base Camp. So I would definitely, if I have to do an apple to orange comparison over here, I would say that Kilimanjaro is one level more difficult than Everest Base Camp, especially because, at the end of the day, on Everest Base Camp, you're in a tea house, there's electricity, you're in a room, you have your space, there's indoor plumbing. On Kilimanjaro, you're camping. It's a full-fledged expedition. So I know I'm not making much of a sales pitch, but I'd rather be honest with you.
No, no, that's fine.
And
Okay.
as a result of that, do we need to add to any of the? I shouldn't use the word luxury, but in terms of the facilities with which we should take to kind of counter that.
Yeah, just a couch
Yeah,
and
so
champagne.
Sorry.
yes, I'm so sorry, I missed that.
No, no, sorry. Nothing.
The couch and champagne. Yeah, we can organize that. That's not a problem. Um, yeah, so we try making it as comfortable as possible, with mattresses and a good quality sleeping bag and pillows and the tent per se. But the area is so remote, it becomes difficult to try making it very, very comfortable. So if there's something specific that you have in mind, then let me know, and we will anyway share with you a list of all the things that we will be putting into place to try making it as comfortable as possible.
Mhm.
So I guess the only question I have is, so should we expect that form so that we can have the one-on-one
This week.
sessions with you this
This week,
week?
this week. We wanted to have a touch base with everybody so that we can then Also, if you guys have holiday plans and stuff like that, then we can factor that in because usually this is the time when most people
Yeah.
want to unwind and relax from the hectic year and then come up with the New Year resolutions. But we'll keep the training plans on the back burner, so we'll have them ready for you. What Ayush will do is he'll share with you a Google Form link on the WhatsApp group, and once you guys fill it in, then we'll work on it and then we'll send it to you. And then we can always schedule a one-on-one call with each one of you depending upon your convenience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that was
Perfect.
it from me. I know Hema, you just joined. Does she have any questions, or Vivek, you can relay it?
You're muted.
Yeah, I take the dump from Vivek. I know he must be starting to climb up the stairs already. I have none here, but yeah. What I was keen, I think I mentioned to Pooja in the morning. I just need to have a planner in place. When I'm supposed
Yes.
to start, I need that prescription. So when I'm supposed to start and what I'm supposed to monitor on weekly or bi-weekly basis.
Yeah, that's what we'll work on with you. So the moment we have your details, I usually share Google form. We'll capture your specific details, your medical history, and then we will create a plan for you. And the presentation that we had, what we'll also do is that we'll convert that into a PDF and share it on the group, so it becomes easy also for you to refer to as well.
Yeah.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. And how do we compete with Pooja and Sachin, who are very competitive? I think that would be helpful.
You you don't have to worry about them. We'll have a rope attached to them, and you just need to hold on to the rope, and they'll tow us up
I
to the
want to
top
be
of the
first. That much I can tell you. I'll be supportive to my group, but I want to be first.
I mean, I think she's become the second Deepthi. We had another lady who was really competitive.
No, no,
Whatever
we
prescription
want.
you share, make it different for us because these guys need less of a training than rest of us.
Yeah.
Sure. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Samir
thank
and
you so
Ayush. Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Cheers.
Thank
lot.
you,
Bye.
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Bye.
Samir. Thank you, Ayush.
Thanks for
That's
joining,
Our
great.
guys.
Thanks,
pleasure.
Patham.
And we'll connect with you during the week as well.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.